Well,
It's amazing what
Yeah.
you find here.
Yeah.
Comes here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Brings it, so.
you know,
It is.
Right in the house, yeah, yeah.
well, welcome everybody to the July meeting of the Waitsfield Conservation Commission. We've got a full agenda this evening and we'll be having an executive session, also. And York Haverkamp has joined us for the meeting, so thank you, York. So, does anybody have any like additions or suggested changes to the agenda?
Yeah, the updates from James and Chris about maintenance
Yeah.
on food.
It's
I
on
think
here,
that's
it's
on
on
the
here,
agenda.
it's on the agenda.
It's not a highlight item.
It's a try, and it's under other business. Trail stewardship plans,
Right,
okay,
okay. I took that for something future, not past. Go ahead,
oh, okay,
proceed.
all right. Don't think we have any members of the public here, so we'll move on to the review of the June minutes.
Did anyone have issues with them?
So I move that they be approved as submitted. Thanks to Gail and Carol.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Farley Park update. Mr. Hoffman.
Yeah. Right, so you get to hear a bit from me tonight. Thanks for your tolerance in advance. So on Farley Park, things are moving forward with the sort of little Friends of group and the landscape architect, Cynthia Knopf, that was hired to help out. We've had a couple of meetings and a site visit, and a few of us are going back to the site tomorrow to take a look particularly at parking. So I think the notable things, since you all were last briefed in the spring when I was away, are that the bench construction fabrication, oh great, perfect timing. Hey, Chris. The stone bench fabrication is underway with the contractors that were hired for that. And they're shooting to have that ready by late summer, late August or September. And we're still working in terms of the layout of things on where to put the parking. We had been thinking, based on a site visit a month or so ago, of putting it down over right near Hadley Gaylord's fence line in that low area, sort of just in from the small patch of woods between Route 100 and the field. And then Brian Shoup and I met with Hadley, I don't know, 10 days or so ago, and he raised some cautions about that from his perspective, that it would put people right next to his property where there's readily available egress, ingress, whatever the right word is, route path onto his property. Entryway, thank you. And that there may be temptations on the other side, and if it's right, if people are parking right there, that could create more of that kind of attractive situation than less. And also, he said he felt like if it's sort of more out of view, and so it could become a little more of a gathering place for the sorts of behavior that we don't want to see happening on the property, which had not occurred to us before. And then also he said that, that's in his sight line from over by his farm stand in the house and whatnot. And that his feeling was that, anytime he sees someone over there now, he's sort of wondering what's going on. And if, if there were going to be cars there with more frequency, that could become more of a concern for him. So I think those are all, legitimate questions. It's obviously the town's decision on what we do. They're not Hadley's, but I think we want to try to be, friendly, good neighbors as much as we can. So we started thinking about other possibilities and looking at somewhere, if there's a way to do some modest reconfiguration of the edge of the height of land, basically, as you're coming onto the property, and there's to the right, it goes up a little bit. That sort of bermish thing, that's how things were reconfigured after the gravel was left there after Irene, or gravel was removed from there after Irene. So Brian Shoup met with Charlie Goodman couple of weeks ago to take a look and get his ideas and, sort of ballpark estimates on what might be involved. And he thinks Charlie thinks there is a viable approach there on, as I understand it, if you're coming onto the property sort of on the backside of the berm a little bit, and it would require moving some material, but to create a flat parking area, as we've talked about it, for about half a dozen cars, which is what's allowed in a deed restriction. So we're gonna do Brian and Jack Byrne and Cynthia Knopf and I are meeting back on site tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, I think, to take a look at that possibility, scope it out a little bit more. If any of you want to join, you'd be more than welcome. So that's the thing that's still a little bit in flux, I would say, at this point. And the cost of doing that would be covered from the budget that we've got from the private fundraising that was done prior to the sort of as part of this transition from Tardy to Farley Park. So I think that's a major thing. We're hoping, Brian is also in touch with Wood and Wood about the possibility of having them do an entryway sign, something modest, sort of understated, I would think, not, bright neon flashing lights or anything, but to make clear that this is Town of Waitsfield, Farley Park, maybe with a little visual design. We'll see about that. The hope at this point is that we could get those elements all put together on site by mid-October and have a sort of celebration of the transition of the property into the Farley Park. At that point, be able to invite some of the friends and family of Virginia's and people who've been supportive of this project financially and in concept as it's been unfolding. So we're tentatively looking at the weekend after the long weekend, after Indigenous Peoples' Day weekend, for that. It all not set in concrete yet, but that's the hope. So I think
that gives you deadline.
right, exactly. And that's what, what we're all striving for, and feeling like, it's taken longer than I think any of us thought it would, but I think there are good reasons why it has. There are a lot of different components to this. And I think it's more important to try to do it thoughtfully and as right as we can and not rush it. So I think that's why things have played out the way they have, but it would be great if we're able to get to a point of having an opening or whatever we call it before the snow flies. So that's the hope, and that's those are the sort of there's some other elements in terms of as I think Cynthia and Jack and Brian maybe talked about with you all back in the springtime, but of putting in a small pollinator garden on behind the bench away from the river. I think that's probably likely to be a next year project. So we're thinking about a couple of things that would be phase 2, and maybe putting in some trees, a few trees to help provide some shade by the bench and, buffer things a little bit. I think more to come on that. But I don't think that's going to happen between now and October for a few reasons. And then obviously everything that I've just talked about is in addition to all the work that Kurt and Bob and others have been doing on invasive management, native native vegetation restoration, which is a really critical part of the overall picture for the property for sure. I think the one other thing I'd say is that Hadley, remains interested in haying as much of the property as is available, or, you know, that we would like him to. So, you know, that's been an important part of keeping what's currently in grass more or less from getting overrun with invasives. It's valuable for him. We see sort of a win-win in that, I think, of continuing that, at least for the, you know, sort of near-term foreseeable future. That said, I think Brian and I talked with Hadley about that it would be good to formalize it a little bit and have set up a lease with him for that activity, which it's been on more sort of a handshake for a long time. So Brian and Hadley are both looking for examples of that. Brian was going to contact me, Ben Hammer at VLT, to get any examples that he has.
He, I gave Brian the current lease VLT has with Hadley
Oh,
for
great,
property in Waitsfield on Ralston Road.
terrific, thank you.
So,
Great.
So I think those are the
Yeah,
major
okay.
things. I don't know,
Yeah.
Kurt, if you have anything to add from your involvement in all of this and
well, one of
recent
the
conversations.
major invasives project is Farley this year, so we've been busting on the knotweed on the northern part of the property. So a lot, you drive by now, you'll see it. So we're gonna continue at that for the rest of the season, I think.
That's great.
Looking good, yeah.
I owe you a response to your email about the seed mixes.
Yeah, we're getting
So-
more trying to get more sophisticated about restoration, you know, so we'll be experimenting there. The latest idea for restoration is putting in bird perches.
Hmm.
In open areas.
Mhm.
One of our UVM consulting ecologists wrote an article, research article about putting in our, perches to help the natural regeneration, restoration process happen. So I said, what, do you have to take the perches down when the honeysuckle and buckthorn fruit
Yeah.
is readily available? So, well, yeah, you could take the perches down, just put it up other times of the year. So anyway. It's interesting, so.
Hmm.
All right, any questions for Phil?
Couple quick ones on this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Phil, for that. What is what, does Hadley have any rights across of egress, ingress across that parcel? Do we know? Is there a right of way?
My understanding is that it is a right of way
Okay.
across there. I don't know that I could point to it in a legal document, but that's always been my understanding, I guess.
You
Okay.
must have in order to get in and out.
Well, he has another entrance to that field. It's just not as good as our
Yeah.
entrance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
which obviously makes it so he's more invested in that road. Do you expect that the landscape architect will then do another set of plans showing a different location for the driveway or the parking?
I do expect that. I'll
Okay.
try to get confirmation of that tomorrow, and assuming that she does, I'm happy to share it around with you.
I think it
all.
would just be good to make sure we have it, so it's a as-built for that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of working toward a finished product, there's still some rubbish on that piece.
Are you thinking
Yes.
in that kind of patch of woods
No,
to
well, it's between the entry where people go in and the bridge. That's so, there's
Oh. Hmm.
some plastic pipe or something in there.
Yeah,
It's
in
not-
that wooded area, there's also some styrofoam and stuff like that on the northern part of the property that we've been collecting and piling up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This also, I guess, might be a good time to talk about. There are some pretty big piles of knotweed root material now
Yes,
throughout the property. So if we're gonna have an opening, that might be nice, at least to get rid of some of that, especially near the bench area.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Could make for an interesting discussion point, I suppose, for those who don't know the property and don't know that, everything that's going on, but we can tell that story without the pile. probably.
One or two little piles, is probably enough.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's the point of it.
You could have a demonstration pile.
Yeah, right,
This big instead of that.
right, instead of. Okay, well, I guess maybe we talk more about that.
Yeah.
And maybe both those things over the course of the next couple of
Yeah,
months.
yeah. All right, Fairgrounds Management Plan Development and Input from Select Board. So maybe I'll start this one. At recent Select Board meeting, I shared the plans from the commission, and the next step in terms of selecting a consulting advisor on the work. And one of the questions was, what should be covered, in the management plan? Namely, should the pasture be part of it?
Mhm.
And I think the guidance from the select board was, let's keep the pasture in the plan, but use it primarily as an invitation to the public to provide suggestions on what the pasture could be used for. And make it clear that, no decisions have been made about the use of that property. And so there's no expectation that this management plan comes up with a long-term plan for the management of that portion of the property. Other than maybe if it's gonna stay in pasture, we need to keep pasturing it until we figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? So, so I think that was the piece of information you were looking for to talk with the consultants about.
So for clarity, essentially, there are no portions of the Lee parcel that would be excluded from this planning effort.
Right.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, with those qualifications, I guess, so,
It's still part of the same planning effort, though.
yeah. Mhm.
It just happens to, it's gonna be kind of handled a little bit differently. Obviously, it's not a forest stand.
Right, right,
It
right.
has a different use
right.
currently. Yeah,
And
great.
we would, I think in our presentation and input process with the community, we kind of say with the select board that no decisions have been made about the future of that portion of the property, it's right. And so we're welcoming any ideas people have for it.
Implying that there's decisions on the rest of it, that they won't be. So how do we,
No, we'll,
we'll want input,
oh, absolutely.
On all of it.
Oh, absolutely.
so this will be a separate input.
A separate question, I guess,
Yeah, yeah,
or stream, inquiry, I guess, or
Yeah.
invitation.
I mean, it could be couched as, this is a different land type than the forest land type. It has closer access, essentially has immediate access, and it's cleared and has been pastured and uses a fairground and everything else, right? It doesn't require a stream crossing to get to it. Whereas everything else is different from that and is more assimilated with the existing
Right,
forest.
right.
I should say, we also would have included the pasture on the backside of the river as part of the planning effort too, so it's not
yeah.
as different.
Right,
Right, another section of pasture.
right, right. So,
Great.
so,
Go ahead.
no, anything you and,
Just as a point of interest, I read some things about Waitsfield's history, and that fairgrounds area was used once.
Yeah, for a fair, yeah.
Just
In the late 1800s, just once.
1872.
But then it was called Fairgrounds for after that, yeah,
Yes.
hoping for the next fair.
Yeah.
2026.
How about that?
So there wasn't more recent stuff
Well,
going,
go-
fair stuff going
Well,
on, over there,
we used it to race go-karts.
but not as part of a fair. or
No, not
just-
fair, but,
Just
but,
on rent.
but the Austin parcel, we used to have some horse shows there on that piece of property.
Yeah.
And that's when I could catch fish right with my hand out of the brook.
Huh,
Good.
That short chunk, it was a big, wasn't a big, it wasn't a big horse show, but it was there. But the fairgrounds it had a track. So it may have only had one actual fair, but there was a
there's
track.
around it,
Around-
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm curious how that was constructed in 1872.
I think the track probably came afterwards, would be my guess.
Would
That
you have to
whoever
agree?
was the owner after, or later on in life, decided to have some fun and make a track,
Yeah.
would be my guess.
Drugs.
All right, we can
We have-
find out,
we have-
we'll find out more about that.
Right, was there any, horse and sulky racing around here? Was that something that was done?
I don't know why they would have put a track in, but
It's flat.
yeah. But then,
Out of the way.
the airport, I think. Might have had some sort of fairground stuff too, and that was, then the air turned into a little mini airport there for a while, down to Kingsbury's.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason it was a lot of gravel, so it would drain quickly,
Yeah.
so you didn't have a swamp, you could get in there,
All right, well.
Great, well, that's
Chris-
a
Yeah, Chris,
important piece.
yeah, that-
Another important piece, Gail has taken on a massive task and you're pretty close to having it, right?
Yeah,
Or
we got
all
a
of it,
lot, yeah.
right? A inventory of and actually access to the studies that were part of the original Ledges management plan.
Mhm.
Because to me, that's pertinent and important to be able to provide at least links to, or the PDF of those to the prospective consultants, and which should be
Okay.
easier, the ones we just did for Lee, right? And just be able to compile all of that in one place that we can say, here's what we have.
Mhm.
Right, and I think any discussion or request for a proposal, or however we structure the outreach to the consultants, we want to at least have some ability to allow them access to it. I don't think we need to send them a 200-page thing with all the stuff, but at least that they would have access either electronically or.
Mhm.
You sent me links, I think.
I
to
did,
that.
but I
How are
can
those
download them.
available? Like, where are they linking to?
Oh, but you didn't open them.
I didn't.
Yeah, so they're just the PDFs of all those reports.
Right, but those links, are they coming from your computer or from the server? You know, because it's not a PDF, it's a link to.
It's a link to, yes.
Right, and
I could put them in PDF and put them in a file together,
I
how's
think that
that?
would be fantastic, yeah, and so if we have,
I'm not very.
and so, yeah, right, well, me either, so this is a good effort for us to learn on. Making sure that we have like I'll call it a bibliography or
Yeah.
something that says
That's
all the things that we have.
Right.
Right, and then, so, thank you, that's been great. And I think we're ready then to move into the next phase of how are we going to request this work, right? Are we bound to use an RFP process? Do we solicit these folks individually? Provide them the information, here's what we're thinking, would you like to come talk to us and provide us a proposal? I think that's how we did it previously for this project, for Woo and for Scrag. But if we are looking to do a more formal process, then I'm gonna need a little bit more guidance, as we will, to get ourselves the foundation of what are we sending out to folks, but I think we're at that point.
Any advice from your
No, I'm sure what you do in the past is good. I mean, we can put it out on the VLCT website and do our normal RFP thing, but I think sending out to the people that you know do the work makes sense.
Right.
In addition.
Okay, great. And procurement, de minimis on procurement is what number now? Is it
10
5,000
grand?
or 10,000?
Mhm.
Do we need more than,
It's technically
Two.
10,000,
right,
10,000.
so over 10, we would need 3.
Yeah.
Bids, right?
if we can get 3, yeah,
Right.
but if we don't get 3, that doesn't mean we don't vote for them.
Yep, okay. I don't think it's gonna be any part of that.
Will this effort cost more than $10,000 then?
I can't
So,
imagine it will.
do you guys have any strong feelings about any one individual firm that you'd prefer to have do the work? I mean, that could shortcut things with a quick phone call and ask.
Well, I'd like the two folks that are interested, right,
Yeah.
are, coming at it from a little bit of a different. Each comes with different skill sets, right, so I'd like to hear what they both had to say.
No,
I
agreed.
think
If you,
that's-
if
that's
you already
what
have two interested parties, then
We do,
my
yeah.
question is moot.
Yeah, we do. One is definitely a little bit more, yep. One's more technologically savvy, and the other is more, deeply rooted in forest management and consulting, so. I'd like to hear what both of them had to say, and if their numbers are pretty close, then we have a really hard decision, but.
They're both good.
All right, they're both good, both come highly recommended, they both are capable.
This is not grant funded, I assume.
No,
Thank you, sorry.
yeah, no one's. So yeah, that's where we are with that. Regarding the manager planning, ready to go into that phase. So with your index, and if you can give me the group of PDFs or a link to it, and we can figure out some way to be able to disseminate that out to the two folks, then we should get something back before.
Dribbled out, get it tighter.
Great, yeah, and if we can get that out and potentially hear back for the next meeting, that would be great. So we'll try to, if we do, potentially think about making some time to hear from each of them. Maybe the best way would be over Zoom and like give them a specific time so they're not overlapping, you know,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
So let me understand the process. Are you planning to ask them, once you get those PDFs and information to them, you ask them to send you a proposal, or what is the?
Well, I think we need to discuss as a group with our consultant to make sure that we're all aligned on what we're asking for.
Okay, so you're asked to meet with the consultant prior to they give us a proposal.
I feel like if I was the consultant, I would want to know what I'm getting into with the Waitsfield Conservation Commission. And the best avenue is through the owl or sitting right here in person, right, to just go through it.
So they might help us think about or shape what we're looking for in a more fulsome way than we might ourselves.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's how I would like to
Okay.
play that. We'll certainly open to other suggestions.
So you're not thinking about putting sort of a broad scope down on paper to share with them ahead of time?
No, I think the broad scope would be, yeah, but subject to some adjustment as we hear from and potentially hear some other ideas that we haven't thought of.
Should we get
How to do the
costs
process.
first before we invite vote?
No, I don't think so. I think it's appropriate to help define the scope and then let them come back to us with a quote.
And then as part of this essentially interview process,
Yeah.
you know, as part of the paper proposal, you're gonna have the chance to answer some questions and discuss your vision.
And then can I ask another question? That am I correct in saying whatever is shared during that also has to be shared with any other entity that's interested?
Right, if we make some decisions, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Alright.
so just to make sure we're all understanding this the same way, so. You two would maybe take the lead on putting a sort of initial scope together in writing. Share that and the compilation of all the relevant documents
Right.
with the two parties that we know are interested right now. We'd have them join us for a conversation ideally at our next meeting
Yeah.
to talk about that, and then we might refine the scope based on that conversation. And then ask them for proposals based on that, which, and we would then evaluate the proposals. Against that sort of refined scope. And would we put it out more broadly through VLCT or anything like that, or not necessarily? I'm not advocating, I'm just.
Right,
wanting to
that was,
make sure we have
that wasn't
clarity.
part of the vision,
I
I,
think it'd be tougher for us to use them, we're essentially asking them to, to be used as a bit of a sounding board. If we're gonna bring them in before they submit proposals to help us craft our scoping, I mean, that to them is worth some money, I think, as a professional, I would say so.
Yeah.
So that's the only, oddity about this is we're gonna ask them to sort of help us create a scope, and then we're gonna have them bid on it. And ultimately, we will end up with a scope that has input from both consultants, and so it will be a level playing field for bidding, but I don't know, just
well,
a bit odd, but
well, we can, I mean, I feel like we've developed a scope relatively clearly
Mhm.
here, although each time we get to that point, we find that we're not actually in agreement. So we need to determine what we actually are asking.
Yeah.
Right, and if that's gonna happen right here, right now, we can do that.
that's just the way I was thinking about it, is we put it out there, we get bids based on where we're at, and then work with that selected consultant to sort of refine the scope. I mean, that to me is how it usually works in business processes, as opposed to using them and not pitting them against each other, but basically using them to garner their experience to help us develop a proposal that they may end up not winning. There's no remuneration in that aspect of it. It's a little bit unfair, I think.
But
And
it
both
is,
of them are qualified to do the work,
right,
as we know.
Well, also, or James, Chris and Gail could lay out what we're requesting and find out if they're comfortable with that, and if
Yeah,
they're not.
and that's another, I'm just calling
If
that out. I
If
think
they're,
it'd be
if
weird
they're
if they-
fine with it, then we can proceed. If they raise any, concerns with it, then we could maybe.
Refine. Yeah, I think that would just, in all honesty, explain the process we're looking for, because it's not standard.
I think it's not standard, and I think that's okay because we're a public entity here and a bunch of volunteers that are just trying to do the right thing, and this is not what we do for our business every single day.
No, I see that side of it. I appreciate that side of it. So it's interesting. It's just novel, I guess. And I think both these entities will recognize, sometimes you gotta give a little to get ahead, so.
Sure.
They may not see it.
And I think they're both used to working with public entities, so I think they'll help us
They'll have a good.
to refine it a little better. Because honestly, if we send them with a loose scope, the chance of the quoting coming back drastically different is gonna be pretty low, right? So it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, 5 meetings ago, we defined a pretty darn narrow scope on what we wanna do here, and to me, that's add the lead parcel into the legend management plan. Here's the new data.
Yep.
Here's the data we had before. Here's the new data we have. Put it all together with a public meeting in the middle of it and incorporate the public input into the draft management plan and bring it forward. If we have that in a document someplace already from the last time we did Woo, or the last time we did Scrag, that's a great jumping off point. I don't know, I haven't found it. Have you found anything like that?
So you're saying the
weren't able to find
preliminary
that.
notes before the procedure? Is that what you're asking? We found.
Have we found our solicitation for
Our
consultant
I
the
couldn't
last time we
now.
did this?
I can start looking.
I've got,
If you could.
I mean, I have a very basic RFP template that I just used for the trail work, and York took a look at it, made some suggested edits, so
For
I'm
Woo?
happy to show that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very basic, but you can easily expand on the template. It adds a lot more description, ours is build a mile of trail.
Right.
That's it.
Well, why don't you go ahead and send it? That would be great. And I'll see if I can craft that into something that we can.
Even on the letterhead and everything, it's all keeping up and ready to go off.
Great.
All right,
That sounds great.
okay.
I do think that the select board's desire to have us include the pasture, the upper pasture, the, former fairgrounds part of this, may, make the public involvement process more robust exactly than it might be otherwise.
Mhm.
So, we should think about that, and the consultants that we're talking to should think about that.
So do you
We
think
should
it
think about it
needs to
together.
be a different public forum for that piece? As opposed to then, or a preliminary one, and then have it opened up to the entire?
It's a good question. I mean, I think. And maybe we can sort of punt on it with the, Kurt, I think I heard you saying earlier from the select board about like the management plan that we come up with for that part of the property could say basically that the recommendation is to keep it in pasture for the time being until, under a lease agreement with a farmer until such time as the select board
Yeah.
goes through a, further process to figure out what the longer term outcome is. So that might be the way to contain it. That said, my guess is that if, there's a public meeting that's about the whole property with that as part of it, that there may be some people who want to talk about different scenarios for that part of the property. I mean,
So
I'm
maybe
thinking
we
also
have,
that,
well, I guess we also talked at the select board meeting about the select board being part of this process too. So maybe we could decide to have two public hearings, one on community input on potential future use of the pasture land, and another one on the rest of the property.
I-
So
That might be what
didn't the
thoughts.
town commit to Hadley pasturing that spot for a certain number of years? So what if the town says we want soccer fields? And we've committed to Hadley that he could pasture it for 10 years.
There's no
He
lease
wanted-
agreement yet.
And he already put up a fence.
right.
Yeah,
So I-
that's true, but
So I have an update on that side of things too, that help inform that, which I'm not sure if I should share with you right now, before we move on to the next item, the agenda.
Yeah,
item.
yeah. Well, can we do that quickly then?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, so when Brian and I met with Hadley, whenever that was a week or two ago, we talked about the fairgrounds parcel, the whole thing, and the two pastures really is, and so. And what I understood coming out of the select board was that they were thinking, let's not try to go through a grant process, a public grant process for cost share for fencing or anything like that, and instead do a joint agreement between the town and Hadley, where the town would provide the materials for fencing and Hadley would provide the labor for it. Which he seems amenable to. That's, that's sort of how it was tentatively left, I would say, but as seemed like a reasonable direction to go in. And there would be a lease specific to that arrangement, basically, for that part of the property. And then there would be another lease for, Hadley also is interested in continuing to hay whatever part of the lower floodplain field that the goats aren't gonna be in, basically, or where we would, wherever we all would like him to do some haying to help keep the invasives under control. So be separate leases for those two parts of the property. Duration of those leases to be determined.
no,
So
it
there's,
wasn't a time.
yeah. We didn't talk about a time frame at least.
Got it.
My guess is that he would probably want, the longer the better, right? If
Yeah.
he's, gonna put in the labor to install not an insignificant amount of fencing. That he would want more than an annual lease or something like that, but I don't know whether that's 5 years or
would he
10
be,
years.
would he be paying for the use of the property or?
We didn't talk about it, but I feel like this, gets out of
Okay.
my realm and more into the realm of the select board, I think,
Yeah.
but I don't know, York, if you have. any-
I mean, I think it all goes along the same line. They don't wanna be locked in for anything long-term for that. Like, they wanna keep open the possibility of even housing, but certainly wastewater in the future, et cetera, et cetera. Can I ask one question about like an open meeting to discuss it with the public? Is there a potential there? And it's just an honest question, where people come in and they're excited about that site and saying, well, we want to conserve, we want a recreation, where it puts the horse in front of the carriage a little bit. Is there any risk to having that spoke, talked about with the public.
That's what I thought.
Kurt, as soon as you mentioned the select board was interested in having public input
Right.
specifically about what they should do at the fairground, I'm like, dude, that's opening up the peanut gallery. You're gonna get everything under the sun.
Well, that was the guidance we got.
Right,
so.
right, but so my point on that is. That's something I think the select board can manage. I don't think, our purview is conservation. I don't want to start polling the town people about whether they want housing or soccer fields or a swimming pool or whatever we're gonna do up there. At this point in time, we didn't even know that. It's gonna be in our plan as management sector of the property. It's gonna be very, it's gonna address what we need to do with it for that, and it's gonna say. There's a right to be doing something else with it in time. I think we just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't wanna dwell on the parcel, on this upper pasture. It's, in my mind, it's a select board's issue 100%. I'd love to be able to include it and do some invasive management out there, those sorts of things, but other than that, I don't wanna get involved with determining what we do with it.
As soon as the fairgrounds comes up, people are gonna be thinking it's gonna be discussed, and forgetting what we wanna get done, I think
Right.
it should definitely be left off the plate.
So so as part of the response there is, I think we should just focus our public meeting on the conservation plan for the property and not just include that as a piece. I mean, I think we know people may want some trails on the property. There's some basic stuff that we can envision for the rest of it, but when it comes to that flat 2, 3, 4 acres or whatever it is,
And
it's.
then if the select board wishes similar time to solicit input, they can do that.
I think it could be couched as. Essentially, to both pasture areas. Could potentially be couched as interim use as pasture.
Mhm.
Until further notice and not be a massive focus or any focus really of. The management plan effort we're obliged to do to get Lee Fairgrounds parcel. Incorporated with the ledges management. Plan. Right, we can note it, we can map it, we can
Yeah.
say it's pasture.
Although, Chris, we may wanna think more long-term about the lower pasture,
Mhm.
and floodplain, and we're gonna have that study from the engineers on connection to the floodplain, so,
That's exactly what made me think of that.
yeah.
Is that it fine as pasture for now?
Yep.
Potentially. Scoured out gravel. Part of the river.
Or as part of floodplain restoration or
Right.
something like, awesome kind of effort.
Which is true for the pasture that's on the Woo section that we already have in the measure,
Mhm.
right? It's already that.
Right,
I mean, I do believe this is a great opportunity to get the public involved with this property again. Opening the hood on Woo makes me nervous. Because it's another 100 acres of stuff that we've already done a bunch of planning for, that we've got some of those things done and some of them are not, right? I really prefer, and I think it's better for us as a commission to put the highlight on the fairgrounds parcel coming into the existing management plan than highlighting the potential to rewrite the entire management plan for the entire thing. Right, I think we need to look at this as an update and a revision. You can call it what you want, versus a complete redo.
Mhm.
Right, which we could potentially get ourselves into. If we wanna do that, I think we need to be very clear. With the consultants, and I honestly think that that's part of why having a conversation with the consultants, once they've looked at what we've got. Will help us. To get to the point of what we actually want, because I don't hear it, guys, I don't hear what we want here at this table. I'm concerned about that. There's a lot of. What would be nice and what we don't want, but I don't know what we want yet.
I don't know that I could say exactly what we want. I mean, I think I have some ideas. I also think we haven't really set up any real time to sit down and discuss this. I mean, we could have a solid hour and a half, 2 hour meeting just about this parcel. And I think maybe that's something that we consider doing.
Maybe that's the
Before
thing.
we
Be part of the
I think-
process.
Well, I think that we could potentially. Put an hour on next agenda and do it and not. I'm not looking to stuff this down anybody's throat. We should be methodical like we always are.
come out at the end with the outline of, you know, 5.
Neither one of these guys is
7 points.
in any great rush to hear from us right now. They
Well,
just
be-
know that it's available and it's coming down the pipeline and they've agreed to entertain it. Great.
We need to get more clarity from the select board. Or do you think, is that enough clarity that they're,
I think they're looking to the Conservation Commission for,
Yeah, they're looking for clarity from
from
us.
us, and we're looking for them?
Well, they flipped it on us a little.
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Instead
Well,
of drawing a line around saying this is what we're gonna take care of, you guys do everything else, they're saying,
You do everything.
do it and we'll decide. what we want to do,
Again,
which
I'll-
is fine. I mean, that's no problem.
It's fine, but I don't wanna be debating soccer fields and some
Right.
pools as part of our.
So can we then, I think what we should do is put an hour on the next meeting's agenda. And have a concerted roundtable discussion about what we want in this planning effort. And write the RFP, sketch it out. And come out of that meeting with something that we can send to these folks with the goodies that Gail's put together for us. And go that route. That's my thought. Put it on the table for discussion.
would it help to have a draft
Draft.
of that? For discussion purposes at the next meeting?
So you heard. Well, I can take that out.
Do you have the Word version of the Woo plan?
Do we?
So let me just get clarity. Are we talking about what we envision for the management of that property or what we envision for the planning process?
For the planning process.
Okay, good.
That's what I'm just looking to make sure we are on the same page on what we're asking the consultants to do for us.
Yes.
So
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 I
it's like
think,
a draft,
you've-
a draft.
Done that job, Phil, you know?
Did you?
Are we there yet?
I think it would be good to. Kind of, yeah, we need to make sure we're all on the same page on where we're trying to go.
Right.
Did you do the Woo planning? Who was on the first Woo?
Kristen Sharp.
Kristen Sharpless was our consultant for both Woo and
But
Swag.
who did, who was doing this piece?
Our memory is failing on how
Yeah.
we actually got there. I'm pretty sure.
Uh-huh.
Phil
No, I
did.
did. Yeah, I did a bunch of it, I think, but. Yeah, and I looked for. Any, RFP like document in my files and I couldn't find anything either electronic or hard.
I mean,
copy. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't find it.
I can remember clearly meeting with Kristen Sharpless in the basement of the
Yeah.
library.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
To have the discussion about what we actually want, and it was not a lot different from this discussion right now. To get to the point of saying, okay, we can do this, right? We didn't solicit other people, we just brought her in. Or-
well, we talked to Robert Turner for one of the properties, at least I
Right.
can't remember which one.
Okay.
But
all right, are we good now?
Yeah,
Next meeting?
Are we gonna do that first?
Carve out some time,
Great.
you'll have a draft?
Yep.
Okay,
So
you can circulate in advance,
You moved away from asking them to contribute.
right,
That's,
it's just at this point.
yeah.
at least for the moment.
yeah, it definitely opens up a can of, I think,
Yeah.
worms that could be dangerous.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I think it's smart.
All right,
I'll just say, I'm not gonna be here in August, I'm traveling for work,
Mhm.
on the 18th, so. I won't be able to be a part of the conversation, but maybe we can touch base, I could touch
Well,
base
you
with
can
one of you
look
ahead
at-
of time.
you could look at the
or something like
draft and-
that. Try to share some thoughts beforehand.
Okay.
Phil, do you know if you would be here for the 15th of September?
I believe so. And, I don't wanna be a. Bottleneck on things.
No, I get it, but at the same time, you have experience with this, deep experience with this type of consulting, so. You're valued. Your input's been very valued on that, so.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris. Yeah, as far as I know at the moment, I will be here on September 15th.
Okay.
Does
Does anybody object to having that discussion on September 15th instead of August 18th?
No.
No.
Just mindful, I was thinking how long it takes to do these things.
Yeah, well,
Just, it
They take time.
volunteers meeting 12 times a year, you have to expect this. It's kind of sometimes long pauses between actions, but I just have a little personal trouble dealing with how long it takes to do these things. So ignore my concerns, proceed at your own comfort.
Well, we're not gonna ignore your concerns at all. I will, if we have a couple more minutes, I just wanna talk a little bit about stewardship, if that's okay. So currently, on the stewardship of the trails aspect of WU, the focus that I've got that I'm trying to work on here is the existing trails that are on the map. There are some pressure points that need some handwork, some issues, right, that have suffered from some of the rains we've had, and they're mostly what you would call double track or wide lanes, if you will, right? And that would include the trail that goes down towards Cemetery and Dickey Halls. That's took it pretty hard, right? I have started to assemble a group of people that are interested in helping, that are public, but are also live there close by. John Jameson is on board to try to fix the bridges that go in from his driveway, for instance, and just get these folks together into a one afternoon handwork directed effort to try to make sure we're taking care of those roads. Some of them are places we've had the excavator out there, which we hired 15 years ago now, to do that work, and it's starting to be worn out and it just needs to be fixed. There's a few places where there's culverts that are plugged up with debris and need to be cleaned out. It's kind of easy handwork for the most part. We have enough bodies. On the other side, we have, Luke Foley, who's interested in participating in that kind of work. I think I've probably got a group of folks that are users back there that are willing to help. And so that's my goal is, what I told folks is by the end of August, I'd like to get a date set and do a Sunday afternoon making out there. So that's what's in the works currently, no date yet, so. I think it can be done with, less than 10 people in less than 4 hours.
Thanks for doing that.
So, yeah,
Let us know when,
we'll do,
with the date.
we'll do,
Yeah.
I'll circulate that.
To join. Works.
Can we try to maybe compress things for the rest of the meeting a bit? We're gonna need some time for the executive session, and I don't wanna skimp on that, I think. So if we can move it, maybe some of these things we can put off for the subsequent meeting too. I think there's probably some we can.
I think we've maybe covered 2 of the items that are currently under other business, the update on discussions with Hadley Gaylord.
Right, right.
We're done,
Right.
and the trail stewardship stuff, I don't know if there's more
No.
on that.
For me, I'm done. Do you have,
Yeah.
stewardship?
Give me 1 minute, because at about 6 o'clock today, when I picked this folder up, that was the first time I picked it up since I was here a month ago. I spent 4 hours up there on Friday for the bid walk for phase 2 trails. No one showed up as expected, so I brought my string trimmer, which ran out of battery in about 5 minutes. However, there was some bad drainage problems on the roadway between the Safan driveway and the parking lot, and there was just happened to be a giant pile of gravel there, and I happened to have a shovel, so I spent 3 hours moving gravel and digging out a ditch. I got some maintenance on, I did talk to a couple of users, one confirmed there's still some trees up there that need to be chainsawed, he's like, I got right over them, don't worry about it. And the drainage work, I'm planning on. I need to just get some emails out, there's a few people that are interested in helping out up there, but it's kind of like, I don't wanna just go up there with some tools and start, what do you wanna do here? So. I need one other body to go up there with me so I can actually run a chainsaw, and my thought was on the way back down, kind of take a little better look now that it's really dry at what the existing scrag trail looks like and what it really needs, because if we don't get proposals, we have no phase 2. And we're stuck with that trail, and at that point, I'm gonna recommend we bring in an excavator to make it sustainable and good, because we're gonna be stuck with it for a while. So I'll have way more to talk
Mhm.
about,
So
you know, later on.
No trail builders showed up for the,
I didn't expect
Trail
anybody.
run?
The only trail builder that lives within 50 miles of here is the guy that built phase one, and I knew he wasn't gonna come. But because I advertised it, stupid me. Next time I'm gonna say, if you have any interest in looking at this ahead of time before the bid, please contact James Donaldson and schedule a time. Because I'm not taking time off of work, and I didn't waste my day. It was a beautiful day, but yeah, not doing that again.
the gravel that you were shoveling out, is that something that the town road group could and should be doing because it's under their purview?
I was shoveling muck out of the drainage, and I was using the gravel that was just like on the edges of the parking lot to fill in the 15 foot long, 3 foot wide, 8 inch deep rip all the way down to the fabric on the roadway. It was on the edge, and it's all because of the drainage coming off the Safan property, hitting the road drainage and then just going across into the road. It was one of those freak little storms where they probably got 4 inches right at their house, you know? and-
Okay.
So that's all I got.
Thank you for.
Better just sitting there reading the book.
Do you think we're gonna get some bids when?
Yes, I fully expect we're gonna have a bid from Zach, but the other local trail builders, we're talking Adirondacks, Maine, New Hampshire. There's nobody that does this work locally that wants to do hiking trails. They want to build mountain bike trails now with excavators. It's a lot easier. Most of them that I individually managed to email with the bid or the proposal and the request, and they were like, we're not interested, thanks. So it's on the Professional Trail Builders Association website, which is national, which has happened last time. We got the local guy gave us a bid for 25,000, and we got a bid from a build firm in Colorado for 125,000.
Travel distance.
Yeah, exactly. It was all their airfare. I can imagine. So, yeah, last thing, RFP is due August 18th, so at 5 o'clock. So as of 6:30, next time we meet, I should have a better update on how many proposals we got.
All right, good, all right, thanks, James.
Yep.
All right, Phil,
Okay,
go for it.
so James, can you pull up the
Yep.
slides? I gotta shut up on my own computer too. So this is by way of giving you all an update on the Conservation Recreation Visioning Project, which has been underway for the last 3 years. Been a long and winding road, but we've come to the conclusion of phase one, which ultimately, I think, was very successful in a number of different ways that I'll tell you about. And we're now transitioning into phase two with the expectation that has been the case since the beginning, that this was going to be an ongoing thing. So phase one is what the kickoff and what was funded under, in significant part, but not entirely, by state funding under the VOREC grant that supported the rec hub and the work over the new visitor center and the bridge over Millbrook and all of that. So there's another component. I'll say more about that. So anyway, this is just to fill you in on what we've accomplished through phase one, how it's come together, and where we're headed. Okay, next slide.
Now I gotta be able to figure out how to do this.
Use the arrow key.
That's what I just hit. This is the 17 different screens, and come
All right.
on, we had this happen last
Well-
time, is where we couldn't actually share it.
While James is working on that, I'll keep going and to say that, so the idea of this entire effort, thank you, great, is around trying to find and work towards the best possible balance and integration of, on the one hand, ecological integrity here in this magnificent place that we're all lucky enough to call home, and vibrant outdoor recreation in a variety of forms, which is something that we all, I think, in various ways enjoy, and it's part of the quality of life and health and well-being and sense of place and economic vitality and whatnot and the attraction of this valley. So that's the idea of this from the beginning, is trying to figure out how do we weave these two things in together in the best possible way. And as part of what I think is really in keeping with the sort of mindset and almost the brand of the Mad River Valley as a place that offers these world-class opportunities for being out in the landscape and the environment, but also in a very high quality, intact, largely intact ecologically vibrant landscape and setting. So we've had this process going on with representatives from 15 groups, and I'll get into that more in a little bit, but that have formed a steering committee that's been where the work has been happening on this, and a lot of conversation, really. It's been a relationship building, a trust building, learning process, gathering information and whatnot among the 15 people on the steering committee representing organizations like ours and the main recreation organizations and some community-wide ones. We've had the benefit of some top-notch consultant support through Arrowwood Environmental, which has worked with us here in Waitsfield, as well as other towns in the past. One of the state's leading environmental ecological consulting firms, to gather data, prepare an online mapping tool and things like that. And then we put it all together in a set of, as it says towards the bottom there, shared goals, guiding principles, and best practices that to kind of guide the work forward. And the idea of this is really, again, around fostering relationships and dialogue among all the different entities that are involved in things related to the environment of the valley and outdoor recreation, and to try to foster an ongoing dialogue so that we can move things in the best possible direction going forward. And we're not ending up in situations where some entity may have an interest in a new trail, for instance, then just go off on doing that on their own without having conversations with others who may have information to bring to bear, and ideas about how to site the trail in the best possible way, how to manage it, how to integrate it into the existing trail network in the best possible way, and in a way that would try to hopefully avoid or minimize environmental impacts, recognizing that recreation can and does have impacts on various aspects of ecological integrity, whether it's water quality or wildlife presence and habitat and whatnot, but that recreation and environmental integrity can be very compatible if they're done in a thoughtful, well-informed, science-based sort of way. So that's what this is about. Okay, next slide, please, James. So as I say, this was one component among 5 of the big VORET grant that the Valley whole suite of partners was awarded back in 2022. It was the biggest grant in that cohort, at least, that the state provided. And I think the fact that this CRV, Conservation Recreation Visioning Project, was part of the package is part of what was a selling point for the state, because they, I think, they're looking to our efforts here as not only something, and we've certainly been looking at it, not only as something that's really important for us here in the Valley, first and foremost, but also something that maybe can offer some ideas, serve as something of a model for other communities elsewhere in the state that are wrestling with similar kinds of things. So you can see the other elements of the grant there. All right, next one. Important to acknowledge the funders that have been supporting this. So the lead one, the biggest dollar amount was from the state through the Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative, but really important to note that these other entities have all provided funding that have helped to support the CRV project portion of this bigger package. And the work, we wouldn't have gotten where we did without the support of all of these different entities. The one that's covered up in the right there is the Wyndham Foundation, which is a statewide foundation along with the Lenalac Foundation. And important to note that 2 of the towns, Facein and Warren, kicked in some funding to help to support this. So next one, just to give you a sense of the breadth of representation, won't take the time to walk through this, but this is the 15 entities and the individuals from each one that were involved in the steering committee. There were a couple of transitions over the course of the 3 years, but by and large, the group was sort of in it from start to finish. It was a big investment, really appreciative of everyone's commitment to this work going forward. And we, process-wise, sort of broke into two working groups, one on ecological integrity, one on recreation and trails as sort of subunits to get some concentrated work done in each of those realms, but not to silo things. So it just felt like it was a way of getting some good headway done that was then all brought back to the steering committee, and all the decisions and the sort of integrative discussions were happening through the steering committee as a whole, of course, of lots of meetings. Go ahead. I think actually while I'm on that, I'll just say, I don't think we have it in a slide, but we had over the course of the 3 years, 4 different community forums, at, LaRue, at the pavilion, and also a couple of sort of more community learning sessions. So there was a lot of effort done through those gatherings to try to invite people from the community in. I would say that, as is always the case in these public involvement processes, it's a little bit hit or miss. But I think there was some really good dialogue that happened through that. Never as many people involved as we would have liked. We also did a survey. We put it out lots of times in the Valley Reporter and Front Porch Forum and things like that. So in terms of the outcomes and where we're at now, these 3 important pieces, and I don't know if any of you had a chance to, following my email from a couple days ago, but to take a look at the information on currently the Mad River Valley Recreation District's webpage about this. All 3 of these are on there, and I'm not going to take time to say a lot about them now, just in the interest of time for the meeting. But each one of these is a substantial product, and substantive products, and I would really encourage you to take a look at them. The online mapping tool, and this opportunity areas map is something that the Arrowwood Environmental put together for us. It's a compilation of existing data layers on 13 or so different ecological features. So things like remote wetlands, large intact unfragmented forest blocks, key crossing areas, bat hibernacula, cliff areas, so it's important habitat and ecological features, and then other layers that have the existing publicly identified trails and other sort of recreation facilities and sites. So think like the parking area at Blueberry Lake as an example, or whatever. So there's layers in there. It's a tool that is intended for this, going forward for the integration of recreation and ecological integrity. But I think it's also a really useful tool for other community uses, for the planning commissions and the DRBs and whatnot, where we've got all this really rich information in one place. The shared vision, values, and guiding principles statement is sort of like I don't know, it's like an informal constitution almost, or compact, a shared agreement that was adopted by unanimous consensus among all 15 people who were a part of the steering committee about this idea of what does bringing these 2 things together mean? What does it look like? How do we go forward with that? So it talks about, our belief in the importance of each of these 2 things as critical parts of this place and of our communities. It talks about the importance of science and informing ourselves going forward. It talks about the importance of dialogue and collaboration, all those sorts of things. 3 pages, there's a lot in there. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. And then the last one, the Trail Development Process Guide, is really intended as non-binding at all, just a guidance document for anyone who's thinking about putting in new trails, whether that's the recreation groups or private landowners or whatever. And it just lays out a lot of different steps to think about, and to, for instance, use the new online mapping tool to help to inform, like if you want to have a trail here, are there sensitive features that you should be thinking about when you're doing that, for instance. There's a lot more to it. But again, we hope that it will be all of these things will be useful in informing the communities the Valley community's thinking and efforts on all of this going forward. I think I'd just say while we're here too, that, you know, there's nothing in any of this that's binding. The CRB project, the steering committee, we talked about this lots of time, it came up at public forums. There's no authority with this effort. There's no regulatory authority. There's no anything. It's really influence, I think, is what we're thinking about. So trying to help to educate ourselves and everyone in the community, elevate these issues that need to be thinking about ecological integrity and recreation and trails together, not separately. And hopefully, you know, fostering an ongoing dialogue with that. There are lots, we know there are loads of trails on private lands in the valley that are not official, that are not on maps, that are not part of all of this. There's ongoing interest in establishing more of those. It's a private landowner's prerogative, so long as they're doing things within the you know, container of local and state regulations to do that. We hope that they will look to some of these tools and the information and the spirit really that's behind this as they go forward to do any new trail development in a thoughtful, well-informed kind of way. Next one, James. So next steps, we're shifting. It was a very intense process over the 3 years. Everyone was, I think, ready to call that first phase good. Pat ourselves on the back and move forward in a slightly less intensive way. So we're shifting into a quarterly meeting structure. And the meetings are going to be publicized and open to the public. The first one will be coming up in September. I probably have the date in my computer, but I'm not going to look for it right now. And it'll be the steering committee with some transition among the members. And, you know, I'm willing to continue to represent this group on that steering committee, but if somebody else wants to step forward and take the baton, I'm happy to have that conversation. And we identified toward the end of phase one about 20 different priorities or, you know, sort of next step work elements. And those will be moving forward sort of as quickly as we all have the wherewithal to make them happen. But we aren't under the gun with a grant deadline to have to complete deliverables by at this point. James, if you go to the next slide, I think it shows what a couple of those are. Yeah, I think I've sort of already said most of what's in there. So the idea again is that this will be an ongoing dialogue. We want to keep building the relationships, which is really what it all like is at the heart of this. It's so important to, you know, that we each know each other and know who to turn to and have some trust in those relationships for informing the dialogue about where and how trails are sited and managed going forward. Keep next slide, James. Okay, so you know, here are 4 examples of and really some of the top priorities out of that longer list of 20. And the list of 20, I think, is maybe not yet on the Recreation District's website, but it will be shortly. So we're working on this idea of developing a code of ethics, which other places like Kingdom Trails in the Northeast Kingdom has a code of ethics. What's not said on the slide, but is also there's work well underway for developing a short video about the outdoor recreation in the Mount River Valley, multi-season, multi-use, all of that, and trying to weave in some of the idea of some of the ethics and mindset that we hope to foster in that. We see a real and pressing need for outreach to private landowners around all of this, again, to encourage them to use the tools and the information that are available, things like that. Easier said than done. Not a small undertaking. We feel it's really important to continue to inform ourselves in the steering committee, but really the community at large about things like, you know, what's the evolving science about the impact of trails on wildlife or on water quality or other aspects of ecological integrity. So that'll be an ongoing thing. And then one that's been talked about a lot, and it's a squirrely topic, I think, is the effects of dogs on trails. And so that we intentionally did not try to tackle that during phase one because we felt like that could become all consuming and wouldn't have gotten where we needed to for the grant requirements. But that is something that I think is gonna probably get some attention. So we welcome thoughts on any of those as well as the rest of this. I think that's it, James, if yeah, so
September
That-
23rd.
what's that?
September 23rd.
Oh, there you go. Right, thanks. Yeah, and it's, the Mad River Valley Recreation District has been the sort of home organization for this. They were the lead fiscal agent and administrative agent for the entire VORAC package on behalf of the broader collaborative that was working on it. They have done yeoman's work, and like all of this for CRV and the rest of it would not have happened without the Recreation District's amazing commitment to this. And they really are bought into this idea of needing to balance outdoor recreation and ecological integrity, which I give them great credit for. Now, as we're transitioning to phase two, it's gonna shift over to the planning district as more of just sort of the coordination home for this. So Sam Robinson, who works with Josh Schwartz at the planning district, is playing that, has just started to play that role of coordinator, and he'll be the one kind of helping to solicit topics for the quarterly meetings and make sure that, you know, sort of moving forward on that. So you can certainly reach out to him, anyone can. But also, you know, I'm assuming no one else wants to take it on, I'll keep going, stay engaged in this. And if you have thoughts or questions or concerns on any of this at any point, just let me know. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for being our voice and being a leader of the effort. Remember, you know, a few years ago, when the three conservation commissions kind of teed this up as an important topic, and quite a distance is traveled.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Some more gray hairs, but
Fewer here.
and fewer. Yes. For sure. Thanks.
Bruno?
And nothing we need to report except for that we use all our money we were supposed to use for last year or last fiscal year. The only thing we find out is we have to pay, there wasn't a money we're supposed to back from payback. We pay from our annual budget an expense that was actually related to the knotweed. So we have to move the money generally from the general fund to the knotweed, and we'll be left over the plus balance. And of course, I ask our treasurer if we can retain the money. He says, no, if you don't lose it by the June 30, you lost it. So it's I believe it's somewhere around $300, $400. I don't have on top of my head the exact balance. So that's what transpired. We finished the year in negative balance, 312, which is good. So we can offset with $500 that we can offset later on. The rest of the account is pretty much interest that we earn. And Kurt and I had met with Steve, the treasurer, to help us try to keep track of the knotweed, the emerald ash borer expenses. And so we can start with the beginning of, we basically had a meeting last week. Steve is tied up with the end of fiscal year mailing also the tax report. He will send us a revised report. We'll have a chance to review it, and we hope that at the time we get together in August, we'll have a final, we finalize the issue we got at the invasive species accounts.
Thank you for working on that.
All right, other business, we've talked about our next meeting on the 18th. GIS primer I put there as a reminder for me to organize it. I haven't done that yet. We shared some of the highlights at Caitlin's presentation on emerald ash borer at the select board meeting. And they were very appreciative of that, and our recommendation that you know, a group that involves the tree board, you know, a representative from the Conservation Commission and York and the select board, kind of form a task force to develop a town-wide plan on emerald ash borer. And as a precursor to the formation of that group, I think York is gonna organize a meeting with interested people on those groups and others with Caitlin Cusack and a person she's identified who works in the urban forestry program, who has experience with managing emerald ash borer at street trees. So that's kind of in the works, and the select board was thankful for our input on that, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Did I
that's
do okay on that?
that we asked you to like take part and you guys did it. And I haven't scheduled that meeting yet, partially because I've talked to Billy Hosford, but haven't gotten, we talked. But yeah, I think we're looking for an application meeting to then spur, a task force. Hopefully it won't be rocket science, but we'll be able to come up with a good plan.
All right, other items people have?
A detail, Vermont open meetings law. Have you coordinated about posting minutes or?
Yes. I started with just last month, so I posted last month and I had to reconfigure I don't know websites, the backdoor to the website, which is like rocket science, but I did do it. And so I posted last month's meeting, and now moving forward, I'll be able to keep up with that. In terms of posting previous years of meetings, we can do that, but moving forward, we're good.
I have paper records,
Okay.
so I think we're covered, right? We have a
Yeah,
process.
I'm happy that we're doing. And that was thanks to you, Leo.
Thank you. You did it. Thank you.
It took a while. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. All right, could I have I guess a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
So move, second, Dale, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, here.
Aye.
Okay. So the Conservation Commission has come out of executive session at 8:48 with no action taken. So motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
So moved.
So move, second, second, Gail, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.